Task 5.5. Manage the identity and access provisioning lifecycle. Remember, identity and access management isn't just about controlling who gets access to what. It's about ensuring that the right people have access to the right resources at the right time for the right reasons. You'll see some of the same concepts like least privilege and privilege escalation and all of that pop up. And again, it's not to be redundant. It's because basic security concepts are part of, again, a holistic system. They're interconnected. And it works to reinforce these things. It should help you on the exam. And remember, if I don't go deep enough, that's what we got that prompt at the end for. By now, you should be really, really good. We have 5 subtasks. 1. Account access review. We'll discuss how to regularly review user, system, and service accounts. This helps ensure that access privileges align with current roles and responsibilities, preventing excessive permissions that could lead to security issues. 2. Provisioning and deprovisioning. Very, very important and difficult. Here we discover the process of onboarding new users and systems and revoking access when employees leave or just move departments or systems are decommissioned for whatever reason. Secure and efficient provisioning and deprovisioning are critical for keeping unauthorized users at bay. Role definition and transition. This subtask is about defining roles clearly and adjusting access when people change roles. For the exam, it's important to understand how this ensures access remains aligned with job functions and that no one has outdated access permissions. 4. Privilege escalation. Well, here we dive into how to control privilege escalation, granting higher access when necessary and auditing its use. Managing privilege escalation ensures that temporary or elevated access is granted only for specific tasks and is properly tracked. And 5. Service account management. Finally, we'll focus on service accounts, those non-human accounts that allow access to systems to perform automated tasks. Managing these accounts with the privileges of least privilege, the principle of least privilege and regular audits, so difficult. And we need to do that to minimize security risks. So connect the dots, baby. It's essential to see how these tasks don't stand alone. Identity and access management is part of the whole big security puzzle. But I like to say, in domain 1, we identified all our assets and we did all this stuff. This is all about controlling who has access, what, when, and where. So that's the most important thing, really, controlling access to those assets. If I do that, I win the game. 5.5.1 Account Access Review. A very fundamental subtask in managing the identity and access lifecycle, and it's crucial for passing the exam. Some key points. Account access review involves periodically reviewing all users, system, and service accounts to ensure the permissions remain appropriate. And here's why it's important. Regular reviews help to ensure that access rights are still aligned with current roles and responsibilities. The last thing you want is for an ex-employee or an outdated account to still have access to anything, right? Identifying inactive accounts is a must for maintaining security. Dormant or inactive accounts can become an entry point for attackers if they are not disabled or removed. You'll also need to verify privileges to ensure that no one has more access than they should. Overprivileged accounts pose a major security risk. And finally, these reviews help detect unauthorized access or privilege escalation that might have occurred. For the exam, you need to understand how the regular review process helps maintain both compliance and security. Remember that access reviews are often required by industry regulations and internal security policies, which makes this subtask both a best practice and a compliance necessity. So let's tie it together. Access reviews aren't just checkboxes. They're an ongoing process that touches on compliance, privilege management, and proactive security measures. 5.5.2 Provisioning and deprovisioning. So important it got its own subtask. This subtask focuses on securely managing the process of granting and revoking access during onboarding, offboarding, or internal transfers. And this is people and services, or APIs. Onboarding. The process of setting up accounts and granting access to new people or systems when they first join the organization. It's important to ensure that new accounts are created with the appropriate level of access based on the function. Offboarding. Equally critical is revoking access when it's no longer needed. If it is not properly handled, well, former employees or some other system could retain access to sensitive information and be a significant risk. Transfers. Adjusting access rights when an employee moves between roles or departments is another key element. A common mistake is to give access to the new role without revoking permissions from the old one, the old authorization creep. Automation. Automating these processes can reduce human error and improve efficiency. Automated tools can streamline provisioning and deprovisioning, making sure that everything is tracked and properly logged. And auditing and logging. Detailed logs of all provisioning and deprovisioning activities are essential for maintaining accountability and for security audits. For the exam, understand these processes. It's key to demonstrating how access to systems is properly controlled throughout the life cycle of an employee or another system. Secure provisioning and deprovisioning ensure that only those who need access to it, and only when it's needed. 5.5.3 Role Definition and Transition. This is about ensuring that every individual's role is clearly defined and that access rights are properly managed when those roles change. Key points for the exam. Clear role definitions. The foundation of the subtask is having a well-defined set of roles. Each role should have specific responsibilities and corresponding access rights. Without clarity here, it becomes difficult to ensure the principle of least privilege is maintained. Role assignment. When people are assigned to these roles, they must receive the correct level based on their job function. This avoids both over-provisioning and under-provisioning, both of which can cause issues. Role transition. When individuals move between roles, their access rights need to be adjusted. This prevents the problem of privilege creep, where someone retains unnecessary access from their previous role. It's a very common issue in large organizations. Regular access reviews. These are essential to ensure that everyone's access remains aligned with their current role, especially after transitions. Automation. Automating these processes can save time and reduce errors. Tools that automatically adjust permissions when roles change can be incredibly helpful in managing the life cycle securely and efficiently. So connecting the dots, in terms of the CISSP exam, this subtask reinforces that identity and access management is an ongoing process, not a one-time task. Changes in roles are a natural part of any organization, and managing these transitions securely ensures that individuals have only the access they need for their current role. 5.5.4 Privilege Escalation. A critical concept for both security professionals and for the CISSP exam. Privilege escalation refers to granting higher levels of access, whether temporary or permanent. But it's important to understand the term can be used two very different ways, and for the exam I would know this. Privilege escalation as an attack. In many cases, we hear about privilege escalation as part of a security breach, where an attacker exploits a vulnerability to gain higher level access than they should have. This is one of the more dangerous types of attacks, as it often gives the unauthorized user access to sensitive systems or data. Privilege escalation as a normal process. Not all privilege escalation is malicious. Administrators use the term as a legitimate way to temporarily elevate their own or someone else's privileges for a specific task. For example, using sudo in a Linux system to perform the admin task is a very common type of temporary privilege escalation. The key is that this should always be tightly controlled and audited. Controlled access and approval workflows. For the exam, it's important to understand that privileged access should be granted with strong safeguards. There should be clear approval workflows, including involving multi-factor authentication to verify the person requesting privilege escalation is authorized to do so. Auditing and logging. Every time privileges are escalated, it should be logged. This helps with the tracking who requested it, when it was granted, and what actions were taken. These logs are critical for both detecting unauthorized privilege escalation and for compliance with security policies. And security monitoring. Finally, active monitoring of privileged accounts is essential to detect any unusual behavior that might indicate misuse or an attack in progress. Connecting the dots. Privilege escalation highlights how interconnected identity and access management is with the overall security of an organization. It touches on everything from access control to incident response. For the exam, mastering this concept will give you an edge in understanding both attacks and legitimate security processes. 5.5.5 Service Account Management. This focuses on managing the non-human accounts, those used by applications, systems, or automated processes to interact with each other. These service accounts, if not properly managed, can create significant security gaps. Some key points for the exam. As always, the principle of least privilege. Just like with any human user, service accounts should only have the minimum permissions necessary to perform their tasks. This is especially important because service accounts often perform automated processes, and over-provisioned accounts can become easy targets for attackers. Regular auditing and review. You must audit service accounts regularly to ensure they are still needed and don't have excessive permissions. In modern environments, especially in microservices and cloud infrastructures, reviewing API usage patterns and access token scopes is essential to keeping these accounts secure. AI agents are part of this too. I think about it all the time as how AI agents are growing exponentially. They are service accounts, and think about the difficulty of managing things that are getting so smart. Secure credential management. It is crucial to securely manage credentials for these service accounts, including API keys, passwords, and tokens. Monitoring and alerting. Comprehensive monitoring of service accounts, including AI agents, is vital. You should have systems in place to alert you to suspicious activity, such as unusual API calls or attempts to access unauthorized resources. Again, with AI agents becoming more common, continuous monitoring will be key to preventing any misuse, or at least detecting it. I like to put one agent against the other. Let's face it, I can't humanly keep up, but if I have 10 agents all looking at each other and 9 of them, hey, look at him. Lifecycle management service accounts, whether they belong to traditional systems or AI agents, need to be properly managed throughout the entire lifecycle, from creation through their use and finally decommissioning. Each step must be documented, approved, and ensuring that no unnecessary or abandoned accounts are left behind. So connecting the dots, these service accounts, including our agents, are increasingly common in modern infrastructures. Understanding how to manage them within the broader identity and access provisioning lifecycle, crucial and critical for the exam and for the world, that common good. This ties back to many concepts and that we've already covered and will cover. But right now, let's just move on here and summarize this to me. All right, now I meant to say summarize this task anyway. Yeah, task 5.5. Let's manage the identity and access provisioning lifecycle. And again, our key takeaways here: account access review. Regularly reviewing user, system, and service account access is crucial for ensuring that permissions align with roles and responsibilities. And this is an ongoing process to help prevent privilege creep and unauthorized access, both of which can undermine our security posture. Provisioning and so difficult, deprovisioning. Properly managing onboarding, offboarding, and transfers of users is very vital and difficult for controlling access. So automating these processes whenever possible really helps. And privilege escalation and role transitions. Understand that privilege escalation can be either an attack or just part of normal processes. But either way, we need to have some approval, some logging, and detection mechanisms to see how that these aren't being abused. All right, as we wrap up, remember, if I didn't cover enough, well, that's what this next slide's for. Again, I am so looking forward to hearing from students. I'm recording all these before anybody got to see them, but I want to hear from people that said, Larry, you should see the prompt I use. In fact, maybe we could have some kind of contest who has the best exam assistant prompts. Now, I have a few, by the way. One of the things I do under deep dive, I think I mentioned it earlier, but just in case on option 5, is I could also add a line that says industry equals. So if you work in healthcare, to help make the context make sense to you, you could do that. Or you could just add like 6, industry. You should know by now how do these things work. And it might mess that up and you go, I said the industry healthcare. Why are you giving me banking? I love when they apologize to you. Sorry, you're right. You did say that. Let me correct you. All right. See you in the next module.